Hey guys, it's Stephen Chun, your event director, host, and MC for the 10th Annual Asians on Film Festival of Shorts 2021. And we're joined here by filmmaker and actor Zack Harris, all the way from Oahu, for his film Ballistic. Zack, mahalo. Thanks for joining.
Aloha, aloha. How's it going, Steve? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, what's your film about, and where in Oahu are you right now, actually?
Right now, I'm based downtown in Honolulu, and I am, as you can see, kind of close to a lot of traffic. So it's a little noisy, but it is very warm. It's very nice to be here right now.
Yeah, you say it's warm, and here I am on the bottom screen on the West Coast,
Yeah.
kind of chilly. That's polar opposites, and that's great. So, Ballistic, tell us about
Mhm.
your film.
Yeah, Ballistic was a film that came from 2018 false missile alert that happened January 13th in the early morning. It was stemmed from a incident where all of the islands received a false text message saying there's a false alarm coming. And for a good 23 minutes, we were all panicking, thinking it was really happening. So this film was basically started in 2019. It came to fruition in 2020 due to a little bit of pandemic delay. And it focuses on the main story of Ryan Watanabe, who is a local boy, a high school dropout, who is trying to make ends meet with his working mom and his younger sister. And he gets the alarm, he gets the alert while working and realizes he has about 15 to 20 minutes to save his mom and sister and bring them to a bunker in Diamond Head before the missile hits. A lot of it's based on real on the ground facts, events. Fun fact to that as well, there actually are bunkers in Diamond Head. So a lot of it, there's sprinkles of actual fact in there. And it kind of goes from there.
So, what made you want to recreate such kind of a horrific prank, if you will? I mean, if that's the wrong word, I apologize for sounding insensitive, but that was not cool what they did.
Yeah, this is where there's a very fine line with political, but I do think that if you were on the ground at the day of, it was a pretty traumatic experience in a lot of ways. For at the time, a lot of us were very concerned with pressure with North Korea, and so the timing on the actual alert was hysterical. It was pretty horrendous for those of us on the ground, and so for a solid 20 minutes or so, a lot of us really did step up and take precautions, whether that was hiding in bunkers on UH campus. Freeways were jammed for 4 hours. A lot of people on the ground took it very seriously. So for that alone, it definitely was something that stuck with me. And for the next few days, the amount of stories I've heard regarding this incident, it really spurred me to want to make a film on it. But I think also what kind of spurred and incited the desire to make the film had a lot to do with the news coverage internationally, and it all kind of focused on this like hilarious mistake that someone had made in the government. And so a lot of people kind of saw it as this joke where it took 23 minutes, the Hawaiian government was not doing their job, and it was this funny little prank. But for those of us on the ground, it was kind of a laugh at what we had actually experienced, and it kind of made me realize the importance of bringing audiences into this story to really try to recreate how that felt for those of us that were living in the islands.
Did you get chills and bad memories when you were making the film?
Well, what's funny about this film is it's very much based on my actual experience. And, the mother character in the story is named after my own mom, Michi. And I actually was with her when the actual event happened. And the chills come back to always thinking back to that day, because there was a solid moment where we looked at ourselves and wondered what would we do should it actually hit. And we went through a whole plan, and a lot of people were genuinely afraid. So it's crazy to think, near almost 3 years later now. But
Yeah.
to this day, I think you bring up, I've talked about this story. I've talked to so many people locally about the story and heard hundreds of stories, and I'm not even exaggerating. Everyone has a story about what they did on that day. And I think every single one affects me not dramatically, but emotionally,
Yeah.
because it really was a moment that was just beyond disbelief. It was crazy, and it really does make you kind of take a step back and reevaluate.
This film has a two-part story in that it was a recreation of the missile attack. And then also you focused on the mother and son relationship. And it starts off a certain way and it ends a certain way in the film. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So I would love you bringing it up. A lot of this film, with wanting to bring people into the story, a lot of it was shot in first person, experimentally, to kind of give that sense of panic and kind of chaos and lack of order. And that in itself was a huge challenge. Trying to build something professionally when you can't really do a lot of lighting and a lot of crew and things like that, or you're hiding people around corners where you can. And then the switch, which a lot of it had to do with the emotional narrative. And so that, like you're mentioning, this was based on a story between me and my mom. And I really want to do justice to that moment. There was an emotional moment we shared that felt exactly as this film goes without spoiling it. And so in that sense, that there's a switch where I actually take the audience uh, rather forcibly from first person into uh, what I like to see as kind of atmospheric into the mind of, and it kind of goes back onto the sticks, it goes back into solid shots there, to take a moment and really just pause. And I hope it captures and it leads to kind of evaluating really the intention behind the whole film and the message behind it. Because while it is great to, while it's kind of insane to relive that moment, that moment shared with me and my mom really was the core of the entire film.
Sure.
And I hope that resonates, and that was a lot of the intention behind it.
I think it was impactful because the film's around a little over 13 minutes, and the first 11 minutes were shot in first person perspective. And the final minutes were shot not necessarily eye level, but on ground level. And that's when everything and all the chaos had happened. So there was the journey of watching you from the film's eyes point of view to that kind of instant, whoa, here it is. And here's mom. So you accomplished it. It was definitely impactful, Zach.
Oh, thank you.
So what's next? Will you be continuing with awareness and working on films that are related to this, or maybe other historical events on the islands?
There is a lot. There's always more projects to be made.
Awesome.
So many stories. Yes. So a large part of my responsibility, I feel, as an actor, as a director, as a filmmaker, I definitely want to bring representation forward. As an Asian American, my dad's side descends from New Zealand, so all together, I'm very much an island-made individual. So, there is a documentary that was in the works that, with the pandemic, unfortunately fell through, and had a lot to do with my descent from Fukushima and what the after effects are going on there since the 2011 earthquake and nuclear disaster. That is quite a project, and actually, unfortunately, I received quite a bit of pushback from the government there. So focusing more on the positive projects that are going on right now. Yeah. There is a few that right now we're working on a local comedy that has to do with a lot of different ethnicities, across the board in Hawaii, just trying to really give a fair representation and giving local talent a chance to really tell our stories, present ourselves as professionals that I don't really think a lot of the main industry, what we call the mainland, the
Mhm.
continent, the U.S., would really see in Hawaii. So that's a huge part of
Yeah.
what we're trying to do right now.
I know what you're trying to say, and
And
that's for another interview because
yes,
there are a lot of underlying messages and arguments and perspectives, and I've been there too. I did work on the islands for a few years, and I have a lot of friends still
okay.
over there, so we can chat offline about that. But I think you've already mentioned it, but if you wanted to bring it home, what would you like people
Mhm.
to walk away after watching your film with?
Hmm. I would love for, I mean, the relationship is my core. That is my passion for the story. But I think what I really would hope people take away from Ballistic is a more full understanding of the extents of human survival,
Mm.
one, but also really the gravity of that event that day. It's not quite a historian role, but I really hope that it kind of acts as a moment captured, in history and what happened, and
Yeah.
maybe even warns us for future events.
Well, thank you so
You
much
know,
for joining. If you'd like to see this film, Ballistic, or our interview, you can check out the links in our bio. I'd like to thank our film director here of Ballistic from Hawaii on the island of Oahu right now. That's Zack Harris. Thanks, Zack.
Stephen, thank you so much for having me.